I used to get I used to get paid $1 to shut up on the street. Now I talk to a group and they write me a check. Life is not fair. And you know life's not fair because you're at an age where you do. How old were you when you learned life wasn't fair? 30? 10? You read about it every day. How fair is life when a baby's born HIV positive? Or a teacher gets paid Friday nothing compared to a guy who throws a baseball real hard? Or kids now are in a lot of pain. They'll go to school and they'll kill another kid for no reason at all, apparent to us. Fair? No. Real? You know it is. I don't know why that school shooting thing happens now, but I'll tell you what happens the next day. If you send a kid to school, one of yours, don't you hold him a little longer? Talk to him a little nicer, because you realize they are temporary and valuable. Life's not fair, but it's always in balance. Always. Some things just are. Heat rises. Fish swim, birds fly. Women mentally provide balance for Neanderthal, brick-headed, thick-skulled prick male like me and some other ones I know. Guys, haven't you tried to figure her out, man? How she thinks? I don't know. I'm not supposed to figure it out. If two people in a relationship thought the same way, one of them would be unnecessary. It's balance. How are you going to figure out a creature like the plaintiff anyway? Huh? How are you going to figure out somebody who likes hot candle wax dripped on her nipples but won't let you put your feet on the coffee table? Holy Toledo. So that was the Showtime special, my one and only there. And incidentally, the guest today, he and I filmed our Showtime specials on the same night in Southern California. I'm, of course, talking about Dwayne Kennedy. Dwayne Kennedy has gone on from stand-up comic to supervisory producer and writer for CNN's own United Shades of America. Kamau Bell, genius from Palo Alto, California, right down the street from Oakland, where I was born. We have some brothers in the hood today. I want to be very clear about what today's episode's about. It's about the climate and the temperature and the passion regarding our differences in this country. And one of the very, very safest, most beautiful, kindest, empathetic voices, empathetic, remember that word, those voices, one of the best is Dwayne Kennedy. We're going to have him on later. You ever take your temperature? Yeah, you know what I mean. 98.6, that's common, normal for a human being. You ever felt like you were 105? You ever felt like you were 60, 70? You ever had a conversation that felt like it was chilly? How about an interaction with another human being that felt way too warm or fiery? Now, I'm talking in metaphors here, but the temperature right now in the country we're in and the challenges we're facing, it's severe, right? Here's the thing that has been going on a long time, though. None of this is new. None of this is new. And comedy reflects usually what's going on historically. There used to be things you could get away with that HR now wouldn't let you talk about at work. And there used to be things you could get away with that were commonplace and common knowledge and common language that are no longer appropriate. How much of that is growth and how much of that is fragile and wonderful and educational and evolutionary, right? Sometimes I have a hard time with what's acceptable or appropriate for an audience. Sometimes. Hardly ever happens anymore, but when I was newer in comedy and when I was addressing groups of inmates and soldiers and teachers and nurses and families, sometimes I had to be very cautious about the words I used because they said something about me. I was hoping they said something about all of us, but that's not a comic's job really, is to speak for everyone. No, we got a different lens. We got an individual eye that looks at life in a way that's either vast, narrow, myopic, grand scheme. That's the joke. The joke or the story. All right. Here's an early joke. All right. There are 4 kinds of comedians on the planet. There's an observer, there's a joke writer, there's a storyteller, and Carrot Top. And the last one doesn't really count. So of the 3 that we are, I'm the storyteller. Our guest today, Dwayne, a buddy of mine for a long time now, he is a storyteller, joke writer, observer. He has the Holy Trinity in his lens shop of eyeball looking at life and registering what's going on out there. Very powerful eye, very political eye, and a person of color. So he's got a lot to say about a lot of things. Friends of mine in this business, we really don't talk about a lot of the things that are going on right now as much as maybe we could, right? We talk about what's funny, what's personal, what's harmful, what's hurtful. And if that translates across a boundary or a border of color or ethnicity or country of origin, okay, I get it. But there are ideas that are related to humanity here in some of the conversation that we have. Comedians, writers, performers, entertainers, we have a special job. I never take that lightly, that responsibility, the privilege of having a very special job. If you look around this country, let's say we'll start here, we'll start small in the United States. What you do for a living, you're compensated for based on how many people are doing that thing. You know, a lot of people are teachers, and it's a great special craft. A lot of people are bus drivers or mechanics, or they do some kind of lawn care. A lot of people are doing those jobs. A lot of people work in an office. How many professional athletes do you know? How many phone numbers of professional athletes do you have in your cell phone right now? I probably have 5 of those phone numbers. And I got to know those people because I'm an entertainer. I'm not saying that one job is better than the other or more important, but if you do something singularly unique for a living, the compensation may be greater, but the pressure is also greater, you know? If you write, talk, do ha-ha for a living, the pressure is greater to say it well, do it right? How many comedians do you know that have rubbed you the wrong way? How many comedians do you really like? In the comedy business, it's a little tougher. It's a little tougher to entertain and educate without irritation of some kind. We'll talk about that with our guests when we come back. Everybody, hello. Welcome to the Mark Lundholm Show. I'm always grateful that you come back. The best part of a first date is having a second date. So thank you for the loyalty and the consistency. I get to host the show, but the show's about us, you, me, we, all of us. I get to choose the guests. Most of them are interesting, phenomenal, and or have some kind of capacity to serve the universe with a great tool. Every once in a while, I get to talk to a friend of mine. I've known this guy for a long time. I've been looking forward to this episode because the gentleman you're going to hear from today is hilariously funny, gave me a tag personally for my comedy routine set that I couldn't have come up with my own in 100 years. He is also got a keen lens to look at politics, community, diversity. He's a really, really profoundly intelligent man, a great writer, funny as heck, and I'm proud to introduce my friend Dwayne Kennedy. How are you, man?
Hi, man. How are you, Mark?
You know, I'm okay. That was a lot of words to open the show, but because this episode is called Shades of Dwayne Kennedy, where do you think I came up with shades, that word?
I'm guessing because I currently work on a show called United Shades of America. Does that have something to do with
Positive.
it?
Absolutely on point as always. You're way ahead of me. Listen, what made you such a keen eye of a landscape, no matter what community you live in, person you're talking to? the topics that you are able to address are many, right? Where'd you learn how to do that? As a kid, as an adolescent?
I mean, just having an interest in a lot of things, having an interest in the world, and then growing up where you grow up in America, and a lot of things happen, and a lot of things happen to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. So just with my experiences and the way I experience things, so you just start to process things and wonder why things are the way they are, why people behave the way they behave. And I've always been interested in that. Why do people behave the way they behave?
Yeah, why is a big comedian question, isn't it? Why? Most people are followers or sheep or programmed by their community or family. Where did you grow up, by the way? I did a lot of research on you, but I don't know that question.
I grew up in Chicago, south side of Chicago, and then my parents divorced, and then we moved out to the south suburbs, and then I moved back to Chicago at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. So mostly in
Well,
Chicago. Yeah.
well, I know that that's where we met the first time at Zany's on Wells. I
Yeah,
remember
that's
seeing
right.
you. I remember that. I used to work that club frequently, but I remember that was a home base for you, and you had a great following there, a great draw. I always thought you were a really fun guy to watch. You always killed me. We filmed Showtime specials at the same time, same year,
Right. Right.
and
Oh man.
best opening joke I heard on any of the specials we were working, the guys we were working with, Patrice O'Neill, you, me, the best opening joke happened to be Dwayne Kennedy's. Do you remember that one about the, I'll do the first part, you do the second part? You
Okay,
ready?
if I remember. Yeah, if I can remember.
Oh, you'll remember. You wrote it. Okay. Dwayne says to a Caucasian gentleman, white man, why are you so tense and afraid?
Oh, right, right. And said, "Hey, black man, how'd you get into my apartment?" Yeah.
I've
All
been
right.
watching, yeah, I've been watching a lot of your stand up the last couple of weeks because I knew you were going to be a guest, and I'm grateful to have you on. Um, what's the most important thing that you want to say in your comedy?
Uh, the most important thing. Oh man, that's a good question, Mark. Yikes. I just want to. I just. I want to be. I want it to be insightful. I mean, a lot of it. But I want it to be whatever it is. I want it to end in funny. You know what I mean? Because I don't care how insightful or profound something is, right? If it doesn't end in funny, after a while, you're not doing comedy anymore. You're doing a TED talk, which is cool. TED
Yeah,
talks are cool. Yeah.
yeah. But Dwayne the comedian, he's a writer, he's a performer, he's an orator. So funny is our thread, but you also seem to dig way deep on stuff, man. It's profound, some of the stuff I was watching, and even your older stuff. You got, I mean, way back to 2002, way back to the first album you did. It's got layers, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's just the way I think. It's sometimes it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm not outside of me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I don't know
yeah,
what to contrast it with. So that's just the way I think.
yeah. That's Kennedyism.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think a lot of comedians. I mean, I like it when we are somewhat like social scientists in a way,
true.
and kind of
Yeah.
breaking down not only behaviors, like I said, the whys and the wherefores and how those things fit together and deconstructing those things, you know.
Yeah, and listen, in the current climate, let's do this first. To be fair to you and the people who maybe don't know either one of us, and they're watching this show, they stumbled across this, or it's a podcast they meant to get Mark Maron, by God, and they got Mark Lundholm. All right,
Right.
but they don't know Dwayne or Mark right now. So give us some of the highlights of Dwayne Kennedy, the writing for, the appearing for, the part of, the Emmy. Go ahead. And don't be bashful, please.
Um, some of the things I've done. I mean,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
uh, I did. I've been on Letterman, David Letterman. I did all those shows, Kimmel, Conan.
Yeah.
I Arsenio Hall. I wrote for Arsenio Hall. I wrote and performed on Orlando Jones show, and I wrote and performed on a show called Totally Biased with W. Kamau Bell.
Yeah.
And I currently am a supervisor producer on a show called United Shades of America with W. Kamau Bell.
Which I would recommend to every person in this country.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I was born and raised in Oakland, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so this is not an unfamiliar topic to me, but I think a lot of people don't really understand that in the United States, because you didn't hear about it, don't mean it ain't happening. And
Right.
and that this what I call anonymous insanity that's starting to become less anonymous
Hmm.
and more available for people to go, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
To think like that, act like that, be like that still to this day in 2020, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And until now, for some reason, it's been hidden, buried, closeted, brick-walled up, or denied, and all that stuff. So how has comedy let you exorcise some of that stuff that other people would say, don't talk about, we can't bring it to work? And our job is to do it at work.
Right. Right.
Liberating?
Yes. Liberating. Yes. Cathartic. All those things. Absolutely. And
And you're good at it.
thanks, man. I mean, you know how that is, Mark. Some of it is you're doing it for the audience, but you're also doing it for you. You know,
Yeah.
so everybody gets something out of it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah.
And are you a good producer? I mean, Emmy says yes, but are you a good producer? I mean, and I'm asking that because I've never done that job. I don't know what it means to go from stand up to writer for a series and or a bunch of shows to a producer, executive producer of, right?
Yeah, supervisor producer. Yeah, I tell
Okay.
you what, Mark. This is what the deal is with that. Um, like when I worked on Totally Biased,
Yeah.
I was a writer and a performer,
Yeah.
and now that was some of the stuff. The way you get pushed into a producer's role, there's different reasons. CNN, working for CNN is non-union.
Oof.
So they
Okay.
have,
Didn't know.
yeah, man. So what they do is rather than you are listed as a writer, what they would have to then pay you Writers Guild salary, they call
Yep.
you a producer so they can pay you on the cheap. That's how that works.
And listen, I'm not laughing at you. Usually, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
When Seinfeld has an episode, he gets like 6 checks. He's a writer,
Right.
he's an actor, he's an executive producer. Right. He gets
Right.
like 6 different checks.
Right.
So what you just told us was supervisor producer means you're not even getting writer's money.
Right.
Right? Well,
Right.
shoot.
Right.
So therein lies some of the angst and
Yeah.
anger and whatever that builds into comedy. I've always written from a point of every comedian I've ever worked with has a 2 or 3 word like POV, we would call it in Hollywood. Your point of view is, if you would describe Dwayne Kennedy, because I could describe 3 or 4 comedians for you in the words, and you would guess the names, honest to God, because you're astute about your peers. But with Dwayne Kennedy, mine has always been restrained aggression. I always write from restrained aggression. Always. Every bit,
Yeah.
restrained aggression. Do you have that? Do you have those
Yeah.
2 or 3 words?
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
a good one, Mark. I'm gonna take that too. Yeah, that's that a restrained aggression and irony.
Okay. Yeah. I was watching a piece you did about the Bible.
Hmm.
Can you, as gratifying as this to me is, and gratuitous as it may be to you, for the people who are going to go look up Dwayne Kennedy in every form or fashion he has, you Google Dwayne Kennedy, you'll see his bio, you'll see his writing, you'll see the 2002, you'll see a lot of stuff you've done for a long time. Winner of the Aspen Comedy Festival when it really meant something, right? Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Yes, I do.
So So we'll be able to look up all that stuff, but please help me. And as gratuitous as this is of me to ask you, but tell them about the Bible. The Bible is big on two things. Go.
Oh, right. I was saying I had been reading the Bible, and two things I found in the Bible, two things they talk about a lot in the Bible are wine and shit that's hard to believe. And I said, I think the wine came first, and then thus hence follows all the shit that's hard.
Dude, and the clip I saw, you're actually holding a glass of red wine as you're doing the joke. And then when they applaud, you got an applause break for that. And then when you applaud, which is applause break for people who don't know, that's the quick version of a standing ovation for a joke. Standing ovation is a performance thing. Dude, we stand. It was magnificent. You did 60 minutes of brilliance. A joke that gets that is an applause break. We're not going to let you talk for a minute. This is for you, right? You're actually holding, you go like this and drink the wine and laughed at the fact that they wouldn't let you talk. I could see it in your eyes. You were like, yeah, I like that one too. To me, right? So all that joy we get to experience from being people who have a vision that's not normal, that's not average. Most people would appreciate that once it's explained to them. But you created that. You're the guy who says, "Hey, twist that camera to that place. I want it to look like this." Have you been doing that since you were a little kid? Was there any trauma? Was there any dysfunction that maybe pushed you outside the box, or did you jump?
Well, I was a shy kid, felt like I had some friends, good friends, but I was, in some ways you feel, it is in certain aspects of your life, you feel like you're inside, and certain aspects of your life, you feel like an outsider and an observer. And then when my parents divorced and we moved out to the suburbs, it was predominantly white. Yeah. And so then I really felt like an outsider, man. So that might have been the thing that sort of heightened that, that observational, what I mean? And I was thinking, it's funny, man, I was thinking about this, is that I think people make people laugh for different reasons. Like I was funny, I would make people laugh, but you do it for all kinds of reasons. You do it for self-defense. You do it to ingratiate yourself. Sometimes you say something to somebody, you make a joke to sort of get a gauge of that person. What let me see what you're going to laugh at. You know? Yeah.
Yep. You ever work with another comic and during the week, I think I know, and this is anybody who wants to invest more time in us today, we're going to do extra time. The Mark Lundholm Show has this segment. You can subscribe, you get extra time. You get a longer conversation with Dwayne Kennedy about things we're going to talk about in the next 3 or 4 minutes. You can get more of that if you want to extend this visit. But you ever work with a comedian who went like a week's worth at a club and you had a feeler joke in his set that you'd listened for that told you who the audience was, so you didn't have to wait 3 or 4 minutes to see what you were going to pitch to them? Did you ever have that kind of... I used to watch the comedian in front of me every night at a certain point, because most comedians who are opening for us, they only have what they got. They can't do 15 new minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean? They ain't got that. So I would pick a joke in a set that was a little cerebral and or edgy, whatever, and I'd listen for the response to that joke, and that told me what gear to start in as the headline.
Right. That joke is your barometer of the of the room. Yeah.
And comedy was a barometer. To you, it sounds like a barometer. I used it for a different way. I was very defensive. And I wanted to put people on their heels so that I wouldn't feel as insecure or less than. It was a self-esteem issue stuff.
Yeah.
But when you say to try to gauge who somebody is, you do comedy to see how much they're willing, how thick their skin is and all that. Was that because you wanted to get along with them? You wanted to belong? You wanted to fit in?
So, sometimes that. Sometimes you do it just to keep people at a distance. You know what I mean? Keep them where they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not so make sure they don't attack, or make sure that, just let me just do this to keep you right where you are.
For me, it was a buffer. It was a safety thing. I was a trauma.
Exactly.
I was a trauma kid, so I got antenna. I always know who's whom in the room because I was in that family growing up. There was always threat. Bitch, snitch, bunk, drunk, bore, whore, wimp, pimp. They're all in there somewhere. I know where they are. I feel better about where I'm at, right?
Uh-huh.
Would you say that comedians, a lot of us, have defensive, depressive, narcissistic, some kind of little twist in our knickers that says, I'm not really hireable or employable in any other. I maybe couldn't do another job.
Right. Yeah, all of that, man. All of that.
What
Yeah.
would you be? What would you be if you weren't a comedian?
Man, what would I be? I don't know, Mark. Whew. I was gonna say a laborer, but I don't think I'd be a laborer. I fancy myself being what I'm interested in is philosophy and
Yeah,
writing, but I don't, as just as a job because I've had some jobs, man. I've done
yeah,
some jobs, even in my showbiz career because I've started and stopped at certain times. Like I washed windows,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
did
yeah,
that, and I for a time I worked for my sister and brother-in-law because they owned real estate and buildings. I
yeah,
drive cats around, so maybe something to
yeah.
do with transportation. I like driving.
Okay, and you know what? That would probably be a great hobby for you. You know what? I see you doing that because you're conversational and you read people. And some of us, you and I, are experts on many languages, body language. We speak diversity. We speak comedy. We speak intelligent. We speak historically. We speak psychology. Right? I could see you being a tenured professor at Princeton, teaching psychology or some kind of parallel course on.
Okay, yeah, I love
Seriously, I mean, there's
psychology. Yeah,
and
yeah,
entertaining and funny, and what a brilliant place to be is at a university of young minds, telling people what you want to tell people in an audience where sometimes it's 3,000 people in a theater who just they want an hour of escape. You know.
yeah.
Hey, listen, with the current climate here, the Black Lives Matter, the eggshells that people walk on just to not piss somebody off. But it's important to be able to say something like you want to say, like I want to say. Are there any limits for us? Do we have any boundaries right now today?
As far as what we can do on stage or what we can talk about, or
Yeah, let's
just
say talk about. On stage, we know that we have a boundary to keep because, the owner doesn't want patrons jamming up the parking lot with "fuck you, I'm not coming back." You know what I mean?
right.
So how much integrity do we get to keep and say 100% truth today on a Friday, let's say? Just talking to people who are listening right now. Do we have any boundaries? Do we have any limits?
I think your only limits are, well, it's a symbiotic thing. I mean, I could say your only limits are yourself, but then it's one of those things where I think in comedy, um, you tell the audience who you are, but sometimes then the audience tells you who you are. Like you say things and then
Yeah.
the audience will accept it or not accept it,
Right.
and then it's on you to then to pursue that if you want to continue to pursue that or if you want to move it and address, yeah, like I said, the vibe of the room
Yeah.
or the vibe of the crowd
Yeah, well, we have a job to do. I mean, I always felt like I was a bit of a server. You want it hot and fast? I got that. You want it spicy? You got a ton of that. I'm not going to tell
yeah,
you what to eat. You want oatmeal? You want bland? You want PG flavored? You want 13-year-old? You want child's menu? I got that. I give you
yeah.
that. But I also have a job to do. I want to push you a little bit, and without being arrogant, I don't want to push you to a place where, geez, I threw you over a cliff. But isn't our job? You do this very well. I watched you. I probably watched, honest to God, in the last 2 weeks, I probably watched 2 solid hours of Dwayne Kennedy.
Oh
That's a lot of
man,
material. And honest to God, I enjoyed all of it because I love you as a person. I still owe you for a tag you gave me for a Showtime special we did. That'll be in the extended version of this conversation. People can get this later. But you and we have a solid voice. I know you have a profound, intelligent opinion. Don't you think at some point, people in the United States, their only boundary is their own ignorance?
yes, yes,
How angry
absolutely.
does that make you at times? That they aren't smarter or more aware?
Uh, Angry. Sometimes, I mean, you get frustrated.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I raise a 13-year-old boy with my ex-wife, the plaintiff, Julie, his mom, right? That's the most expensive joke I tell. That one cost me about $9,000 a month. I'm gonna tell it. All right. But we have irritated, frustrated, and mad when it comes to angry. So you said frustrated. That's a
Yeah.
level of right?
Yeah. Because part of it is too. I try not to get. I mean, I don't get angry at audiences generally, even if they don't get it, because I always the other side of it is it's a two-way street. I'm
Yeah.
someplace. I showed up at where they are. They didn't come to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in your neighborhood. You want to come out? Yeah. Okay. Here's why you shouldn't have come out.
Right. They didn't just walk in your living room. That'd be different. But you
Yeah.
came to where they are. So
Right.
so but generally, like again, what you were saying before, you try to read the room, so
Yeah.
you don't really have as many of those incidents. And then I like it when if things are going well, then you feel like let me push it. You all are with me. Let me
Yeah.
see
And
where I
and
can go with this.
and you said, to quote you, you said that you tell the audience who you are as a comedian. That's pretty much the job. Sometimes they will tell you who you are, but as you
Yeah.
tell them, don't you kind of open up your chest more and let them more inside? Maybe like they know you a little 2, 3, 5 years now to become more personal with them, and that's the
Yeah.
risk we take too. I'm going to
Yes.
be visible. A lot of this we're going to talk more about. We're going to expand on stuff. I want to save some of that for the longer conversation. But as you open yourself up, Dwayne Kennedy, the shades of Dwayne Kennedy that this episode was named are because there's levels of this man that you and I can't possibly know as observers of comedy for 6 minute set on Conan or a 30-minute set on some all-star show or 60 minutes we came out to see him as a headliner. What would you want the audience to know about Dwayne Kennedy? What do you want them to know in a snapshot?
That I am a emotionally complex, fully versed human being. I'm not a stereotype. I'm not a generalization. I'm
Yeah.
a yeah. I'm perceptive and sensitive, and and I fail, and I'm basically I'm like you in a sense. We're all we have that in common. I want you to see the commonality in all of us to some degree.
Uh, I love the fact that you said that. There's a whole bunch of stuff you didn't mention that people want to label us as comedian, XYZ. Everything that's going on right now. What you talked about was the essence of human. I got 2 questions for you. I always ask these 2 questions of every guest. And I love the fact that you're on here. I'm loving that we're going to get to talk more. 2 questions. 5 years from now, Dwayne Kennedy, in a perfect world, where are you and what are you doing?
Wow. I am a writer. I have written a book or two, and maybe still doing stand up, but just a better artist, whatever that means, better at the craft, exploring my humanity and my life, my journey, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Awesome. And a lot of people are afraid to project that far. I appreciate you being honest. Uh, there's a timid part of us that says, I don't want to hope. I don't want to hope. And it's just, it kills the kid in me to do that. Even though hope can be a dangerous thing if you're from a fractured family and histrionics say, I hope it don't belong to you. I fight that all the time. My kid has hope, and that's something maybe he got from God, certainly through me maybe. But here, the other thing is shameless promotion for Dwayne Kennedy. No filter, no boundary. Shameless promotion. Go.
Well, buy my album, Who the hell is Dwayne Kennedy on Bandcamp. Do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what shows can we watch that you write for?
Uh, United Shades of America with W. Kamau Bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who is a brilliant guy himself too, by the
Oh
way.
yeah.
We'll get into him a little bit. I also I want to talk to you about a couple other people I admire that I want to know if you know down the road. Dwayne, thanks for the time today. I can't even
Oh
I
man.
can't even tell you how much fun this was for me because I know you a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mark. I appreciate it, man.
You're
Good to
welcome.
see you.
Dwayne Kennedy. Thank you. You too. Look up Dwayne Kennedy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a guy you want to invest some time in. That guy understands the landscape, especially today, what's going on. You heard him talk about humanity. That's the only thing that you and I know for certain that will never change between us. And that's maybe the rope that we have to not pull apart like some kind of battle, but to tie us all together. You know what I mean? And here's what I want to do. As always, thank you for watching the Mark Lundholm Show. That was my guest, Dwayne Kennedy. Look him up. Google him up. Buy that damn album. That album. Who the hell is Dwayne Kennedy anyway? All right. We'll be back in a minute. Did I tell you? Right? Entertaining, funny. It's impossible not to like that guy. I dare you. Find something about that guy you don't like, couldn't listen to, tolerate. He's just he's one of the greatest guys. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. I admire his writing, and it reminded me because I grew up in a certain neighborhood. It reminded me of a movie in the '60s. Guess who's coming to dinner? Sidney Poitier is a physician, and he wants to marry a white woman, and his dad's pissed. His dad, who's a mail carrier, says, "I carried that bag a whole bunch of miles so you could be a doctor. Now you're going to screw it up with this relationship, this marriage idea, this farce, this fantasy." And Sidney Poitier gets pissed. He gets mad back at his dad, and then he stops and he thinks, and he starts crying, and he says, Dad, empathy. You see the empathy in Sidney Poitier's eyes for his father. He says, Dad, you can't help it, but you think of yourself as a black man. I think of myself as a man. Hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw that the first time, and I just thought, how many of us categorize ourselves in a way that has to do more with where we point our privates or where we aim our ask or our faith or naturally, hey, what we look like, what we wear, what kind of car we drive. Man, I'll tell you, like Dwayne was talking about today, empathy for other people, for situations. If we could come to common ground. Walk a mile in my shoes. How old is that? I mean, walk a mile in my sandals. Didn't one of the apostles said that? I think Joseph said that. He said, walk a mile in my sandals, man. Hey, JC, walk a mile in my... He didn't really say that. I wrote that. Anyway, I believe that the empathetic way to look at somebody else's plight, an old teacher said... The teacher wasn't old. I was young. It was a long time ago, right? She would be mad if I said an old teacher because Mrs. Ramirez, she told us one time, everybody you meet has a struggle you don't know about. Now, that was Catholic school. That was 5th or 6th grade, but it stuck with me for some reason. I've seen that recoded a whole bunch of times, but it never gets less true. There's an empathy that I have for new and struggling comedians, for new and clean and sober people. I know what a rough road that is early on. A lot of gravel. There's no lanes or sidewalks or easy paths when you're just coming out of substance abuse. There's a whole bunch of empathy needed for families going through what families go through. If I can help them, I will. A lot of times, if I understand them, I'll be willing to help them. How's that working for you this week? Who could you reach out to this week and serve, help, and have some kind of hashtag service to others? Hashtag empathy for. So if you think about it, the conversation we had today with Dwayne Kennedy and some of the other conversations we're having now around the country. Can't you put yourself in someone else's place for 30 seconds? In fact, there's your assignment, the love task I have for you this week. Put yourself in someone else's place for 30 seconds. A random stranger, somebody you don't like, maybe somebody you can't find respect for right now. Put yourself in their place as best we can. We don't know everybody, and we're not psychic, a lot of us. But do it for 30 seconds. See if that doesn't change something in you. 30 seconds, that's the investment. Hashtag love task. Hashtag love task, 30 seconds in someone else's shoes. And one of my favorite segments on this show, every single episode has a shortcut to offer you. You are what you answer to. You can take it personally or look at it truthfully. You take life personally, ouch. You look at it truthfully, there's a lesson or an experience to have. I can't tell you how many times I took things personally and went right after some kind of reaction, retribution, or defense. Shortcut. You are what you answer to. You don't like a word? Don't own it. You don't like an idea or an accusation or a comment somebody throws at you? Just get out of the way. One of the best athletes I ever saw do anything well was Muhammad Ali. He was a hero of mine when I was a kid. He was the best ever in the ring. You can go back and look at footage of this, of moving just enough to get out of the way. He never overdid the reaction. He never exaggerated his movements or stance. He was perfect at knowing just how far to flinch so the punch would go right by. They would just miss if he did this or this. He'd pull back just enough so he was still ready to fight. I think our reaction sometimes pulls us away from what we came there to do, right? So, shortcut for you. You are what you answer to. You can take it personally or look at it truthfully. Take that home with you this week. Like we do every episode, I want to remind you, hashtag be first. Peace, love, tolerance, communication, graciousness, forgiveness, spirit, patience, support. If you don't see some out there, be some out there. Hashtag be first. And hashtag empathy. That's what we're going to do. Hashtag love task. Put yourself in somebody else's place for 30 seconds. Wear someone's shoes for 30 seconds. There you go. I love the fact that you tune in. I love the comments we get. I love the fact that you're subscribing. Thanks again for coming back. We'll see you later.